What's up, guys? It's me, Alex. So I watched Rango not too long ago, and I literally have not been able to stop thinking about the movie. I'm sure most of you guys have probably watched Rango before. Basically, the whole premise is it's about this lizard who, he's like a chameleon, I suppose, something like that. Um, he becomes like a town sheriff and helps save the town or whatever. It's and he starts out kind of not actually being that. He was never that. He just became it. The thing that really sticks out to me is that he was basically just LARPing, is what it is. I know that LARPing has kind of been a joke term, especially in our generation. But I think it can hold a lot of true meaning, and people who actually, want to develop their life and reach their goals, like, it's actually necessary. At the very start of the movie, it kind of starts off with Rango, making these scenarios in his head with his props in his cage. And he's like, he belongs to a family and he's in the back of a truck. And he's basically isolated. He's the only living thing in this cage besides like a little insect, and the insect is kind of doesn't matter. He was pretending, to be a star or, who am I kind of thing. He would always ask himself that. I think he also spent a lot of time, making these fake scenarios and idealizations and kind of create a life inside of his head that he thought was so true that you, as the viewer, couldn't even tell that it was fake until, he was started messing with a mannequin and we get kind of zoomed out and saw what was actually going on. And I find myself doing that a lot, kind of creating these fake scenarios and pretending to be doing something that I am actually not, and usually it's not productive. In his case, it wasn't productive either. He was not ultimately doing anything to pursue these dreams or visions or his imagination. And I think the cage is actually a metaphor for, kind of mental captivity and staying inside with, or like within your known quote unquote like limits or inside your comfort zone. He really probably could have gotten out of the tank sooner if he wanted to, but it's where he was comfortable because he felt like he didn't have any actual pressure on him to do anything. He was kind of at his own pace, and he was in his comfort zone with his life that he's created, and he knows what's going to happen, right? He has control over all the variables. After the opening sequence, the car kind of swerves or something happens where his tank with him in it and all his other stuff kind of falls out of the car and shatters on the street. And they're in the middle of nowhere, like it's a desert. It's soon clear that he no longer has control over his environment, over the things that are going to happen to him, right? He is now the only person chasing something, and he can only control his actions. The most interesting part about the whole first part of the movie is that you'd think there would be more of a learning curve, right? He is clearly uncomfortable where he's at, and it doesn't take him super long to adapt because he's so good at playing these fake characters, this improv, that he just does it in real life. He gets kind of into town after meeting a friend, Beans, and he meets these people in a bar and he asks for water and they all laugh at him. Water, is kind of a privilege to him. To these other people, the other animals in the town, they don't really have that luxury, so they laugh at him. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Water, we don't have that here. He gets pressed by another animal. It's like an armadillo or a mole or something. I don't know what the fuck it was. And it asks him, like, where are you from? You're clearly not from here, so where are you from? And he says, he has this like mental moment. And he's like, who am I, And he sees something and it's like, I think he says like Rango or something like that. I don't know exactly what the name was that he gave himself. And he comes up with this whole story on the spot about how he killed these people and how he's from a place where, they don't mess around and he's nothing to be messed with. And he ends up saying that he killed these Jenkins brothers. So this is all completely false, right? Because us as a viewer, we know that he was in captivity. Literally, he had no interaction with any other animals probably his entire lifetime, other than the ones that he ate for food. So this is all, he's just bluffing, and we know that. But the people around him don't, because he's so convincing about it. So soon enough, he kind of gets put to the test. He gets confronted by these other lizards that say that he's lying, and that they're going to have a shoot-off. Right before the shoot-off, there's this big eagle that comes and scares off the other people. Rango doesn't really know about him, so by some stroke of luck and, comedic intention in the movie, for the sake of actually watching the movie and it being a kids show still, he mistakenly kills this bird, and the town's like, oh my god, you weren't lying, you're right, he's gonna be our new mayor. And sure enough, he becomes the mayor. Day goes by. He's kind of struggling, there's problems that keep coming up that he might not know how to handle correctly, or that might be kind of shocking how he handles it to the town, right? Because there's some people that are like, okay, this guy's definitely bluffing, but the majority of them actually believe that, he's there to save them and to help them and everything like that, and that he isn't lying about his background. But every day that goes by, he kind of starts to develop this actual sense of duty, right? And you can tell that because towards the end of the movie, he kind of gets called out, right, by this snake Jenkins or something. I don't know what his name was, but he gets called out by this snake, and he admits that he was lying, right? And everyone's like, oh my god, you lied, we can't have you here. And this snake ends up taking over the town, and he walks away, and he encounters, I don't exactly remember who it was some human, and they had a really philosophical exchange of words. He ends up going back, taking out the snake, and not by a stroke of luck this time. He literally got the guts to do it, and there was just a look in his eye that you could tell that he was serious about what he was doing as well. He got everyone together and, created this plan and scared off the snake and live happily ever after. And sure enough, if you fake doing something for long enough, it will literally become your routine. Let's think about, people, this is kind of an extreme example, but people who, do drugs. Yes, there's an addiction factor, but if we're kind of taking that away, the way that I think about it is these people start, doing something socially, oh, I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker, right? They end up doing it so much, pretending to be, something for their social circle, and then they end up actually, kind of falling into it. If we can't do it in that way, then why couldn't we apply it to something like art or creativity or sports? If you have the energy to fake something, you have the energy to actually do it as well. It's not by any means easy to be a mayor, like Rango was, but he faked it so much that these people believed him, and he ended up kind of gaining status, and that status gave him a sense of reason, a sense of duty that he had to do something for these people. And by some miracle, he literally ended up being someone for these people, regardless of the fact that he was lying. An example I can think of for myself is I started reading, I started reading kind of just to be kind of fit in or be more intellectual, things like that. And I never read before, and I totally knew in my heart I was not doing it because I actually liked it. I was doing it because I was I feel like this is something I need to progress, especially since I'm so into writing and talking and making videos and things like that. I just want to have more of a, kind of mental vocabulary. And sure enough, I enjoy reading now. It's insane because 5-6 months ago, 7 months ago, I wouldn't have been like I was hating reading, but I was pretending to like it. And now I do like it. So I've started applying this factor, faking it till I make it. Fake it till you make it is a literal thing. I think a lot of people just attribute it to like, oh, it's just a kind of a saying. It doesn't really mean anything. But try it. I want you to try it with one thing. Whether it's writing or reading or making music or studying a subject or playing a sport, right? Eventually, you will literally become that thing. In my videos, I don't like to elaborate a lot because I want to leave room for you to think and kind of formulate your own ideas, because I formulate my own, right? And even just having kind of a semblance of someone else's thoughts and ideas can kind of sway your own subconsciously. I'd say a lot of the time, if not all the time. So it's really important that you think about this and kind of apply it in the way that you think it'll be most helpful for you. Go watch Rango. Go see if you kind of pick up what I'm talking about, and think about it. Try it.